For people who's the first time coming to Star Prime, well, welcome to Star Prime Barcelona. We've been doing this shit for almost 7 years now, not 70, just 7 years. We started in early 2014. We're way into our seventh year. We do one monthly event where we foster entrepreneurship. We connect, we inspire, we educate entrepreneurs worldwide. At present, we're almost in 135 different countries, more than 600 cities all around the world. Barcelona was one of the first 70 chapters, if I remember correctly, because we're one of the most senior chapters. We've been doing one event month in, month out, at least one event since February 2014. That means that we are in our event number 101, actually. We realized after our last event with Avi Mayer from Travel Park that was event number 100, and we didn't celebrate because pandemic, right? So this is the way we roll. Welcome, everybody. As a general reminder for everybody, Startup Brand is our way to connect people in the industry. If there's anything we can do for you, our values are help others, give before you take, and make friends, not connections. So that in our physical events, we used to do the open mic. We try to help each other. We never allow people to be alone without talking to anybody in the networking part. We try to be always as amicable as possible. And what we do in our events is the central part with a fireside chat, followed by Q&A. There is usually delicious catering. We're sorry you cannot help. We cannot send catering to 170 different people. That's something that maybe if there's a sponsor that wants to do that, we'll be happy to ship empanadas from Las Bunts everywhere. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. We look forward to seeing you in person. But unfortunately, since March, we've been hosting our events online. That doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. And you're gonna receive more news tomorrow about our upcoming events. We're gonna continue doing online stuff. The next event, it's not yet published. It's gonna be with the legendary Luis Martin Caviedes. We should be publishing it sometime soon. But we had one of our best remembered events in November 2017, if I remember correctly. I interviewed Luis Martin Caviedes, and people were like, dude, you need to talk to him again. Like, we want Caviedes again. So next month is going to be Caviedes. December, we're preparing something special. Still kind of disclose anything, talking to a couple partners. And we might have a really big event in January with a very, very famous business angel from Silicon Valley. A very outspoken person, especially on Twitter. And it's not just me, it's that other person, right? So, well, without further ado, maybe we're 5 minutes in. If you're late, I'm sorry. We're like, we allowed enough time. So I'm gonna introduce our speaker for tonight, even though you met him last year. I interviewed him July last year in one of our biggest events, actually, in Star Brand. I was checking, it was one of our biggest events. We had a full house at Movistar Center in Plaza Catalunya. Carlos Pierre, CEO and co-founder of Badi. Welcome to the show, Carlos. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for inviting me. The last time I was here talking at the Startup Grind, I remember that I made a great entrance with some music. We have music today.
We don't have music today. That's something we could actually. I was checking yesterday. I attended another chapters event. I attended the Star Brand in Glasgow virtually, and they did it. I was like, damn, that's one thing. It's easy to do. We should be doing it. So I take note of that consideration. How are you doing, Carlos? I mean, first, let's just start. I mean, not going to introduce much. I've been speaking a lot, and you got to fight for your right to talk because I'm not giving it to you. So unless I'm posing a question. So feel free to interrupt me anytime. But the first time I wanted to ask is, obviously, everybody's been struck by the pandemic. And pretty sure you've covered this a lot in other events. We talked about a lot how we've been affected by the pandemic. But I wanted like a brief update of how you guys were affected by this. And most importantly, next question is going to be how we're getting out of this.
Yeah. So there's a clear word to describe 2020, and probably the best word to describe it is challenging.
It's very polite.
Yes, and it's difficult to start, but I will try to also articulate it fast and clear. Basically, we at the beginning of the year we were planning to also raise more funds with a new round. Then COVID started. Of course, no one was expecting a global pandemic. So basically, we couldn't raise we basically stopped trying to fundraise, and we raised funds from internal investors. Of course, that round was not as much in terms of volume that we expected. So basically, also investors, there were basically there's many things that you don't know, right, about COVID, when it's going to end, etc., how it's going to affect the company. So basically, we closed less funds, but those funds needed to last more than expected, right? So basically, we needed to be super creative at reducing cost overall. Also, we stopped marketing and we focused on product and tech. So we have been the last 6 months focused 100% on product. We made a lot of restructures in our team. Basically, we were a company that was spending a lot in terms of marketing, branding, etc. It worked well. But of course, during the last 6 months, we needed to reshape a little bit the strategy, the team, etc., and more focus on product. In terms of the business, what we saw is that, and what happened is that supply grew organically really, really fast. So basically, we reached historical levels of supply. It makes sense, a lot of supply coming from vacational, many people who start thinking about just renting empty spaces because they needed that extra money. A lot of rooms not getting rented because of mobility restrictions, etc. So basically, supply grew a lot, demand decreased 50%, 60, 70%. International demand stopped, basically. So way less demand, way more supply, and focusing on product. And I believe today, we are on a way more healthier position than the position we were pre-COVID, due to reducing costs, focusing on product, and also monetization. We can talk about this, but we started testing monetization in March during the pandemic.
Good timing. Good timing.
Yes, good timing. Yeah. So, well, the good news is that we have been increasing, but we can talk about this. So, I'm learning a lot of things. Basically, I think that the experience of going through this crisis has helped not only me, but also the entire team to learn a lot of stuff that wouldn't be impossible in a situation where everything goes as expected. So right now, yeah, we're in a good spot after all these challenges.
Let's talk. You brought it up. You brought it up. I know it's uncomfortable to talk about money, but you brought it up, so it's your fault. Let's talk about monetization, because basically you were known as a company that was not monetizing. When I interviewed you last year, you were like, yeah, we're going to start soon, because you were focusing on growth. Target Global was adamant in saying, we totally believe in them. You know, one of your main investors, if not your main investor, they said that you were betting on you to kind of like take over the market. So it's just growth. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about money. You start playing with money in March, and then boom, this happened. So was it kind of like back to square one? How did you feel about that? Like, how did you feel about, like, you know, we start playing with monetization and fuck, like this happens and all hell breaks loose?
In fact, it was, I mean, of course, COVID is not good, right? It's really bad, and it hurt a lot the expectations that we had. But since we started testing monetization during the worst time of COVID until now, at least, and that was end of March, every month we have an increasing revenue. So
that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
that's the good news, and also it allows us to have enough time to test a lot of things, right? It's like you can go to investors and it makes sense, right? And also to the team and say, look, the next 4 or 5 months, of course, we are not going to get the projections that we had in terms of revenue, but we have a little bit more time. And also we have the money at least, right, to test a lot of things. So basically in terms of revenue, we have been increasing every month. We have been testing a lot of things. It kind of gave us enough time to also have this time to test, basically, that usually you don't have, because you need to go super fast. And and we kind of reimagine a little bit the strategy that we had, and also we had time to do that. So not that bad. Like, taking into account our revenue was 0 right now. Every month is increasing, And if you compare with companies that they had, of course, previously revenue, they are decreasing month over month, depending, of course, on the company, but in hospitality and travel, etc., and we are increasing. So that's good.
It's always darkest before dawn, right? That's what they say, right? So
Correct.
in this sense, like, so how was the reaction of investors? Because probably you did this plan, you made this plan. We're going to start monetizing in March. It's going to take, a couple months, something like that. Then we'll have these projections, which obviously are worth fuck all because of coronavirus. But the fact that you are able to monetize now during a pandemic, is it actually better? Like, has it proven that you can monetize just because it's a very rough time? So in fair weather, you could be doing even more money. What is the vision of the investors? What's your feeling there?
Well, basically, investors, we presented a business plan right before we closed the internal round. We were asking for more money to current investors, and they were saying, okay, we believe in the project, we will give you more money, but first we want to see your plan, right? So we showed the plan, and the first thing they did is, we're going to use those projections, but take revenue and put zero every single month, right? And the money needs to last 18 months with zero revenue. Of course, all the revenue that you have comes on top of it. That's it, right? That was the at least the first scenario. Then you start working with several scenarios. So they already were like, okay, we are seeing how this is going to affect. It's going to be super hard. So let's start with the presumption that this is not going to become better, and it's going to be really hard for you to monetize. Then eventually, what we have seen is that we were already just creating this strategy that was. And the cornerstone was digitalize the rental market. And what that means is that doing everything, or not everything, but at least a lot of things that have been doing offline in this market, in the rental market and real estate, making it online. Basically means transactions, contracts, visits with video calls, etc., right? So we were already just doing and launching all of these features that were related to online. And what we have seen is that it worked, right? It helped during this difficult time. Demand decreased also. That's and also there were mobility restrictions at least the first 2 or 3 months, right? So that affected a lot. But we had some things to make us dream and believe that we were on the right path. So basically, right now we have a strategy which is digitalize the rental market, but also become the most liquid, right? So also we work on getting more demand and more supply, and even if we can open in new verticals.
Let's talk about, because I think we in all events, right? All events since March, we've been dealing with how to navigate the crisis, how to get through the pandemic, this and that. Okay, we've seen plenty of that. Let's focus on the future. How do you guys plan to get out of this? Like, what's your plan for, if you have one, to get out of the pandemic?
First, even if we want, we are not going to get out of the pandemic if the pandemic doesn't want, right? So that's the first thing that we need to take into account, that we don't know how this is going to last. So basically, the plan is to adapt to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. When the pandemic ends, then we will see what happens, right? But then basically we adapted to the pandemic. What that means is, for example, in the case of Badi, supply, as I said, it's just growing. So that's good news. And also organically, we don't need to spend that much money on marketing. Then the demand has become our biggest focus right now. So demand, we were also trying to get a lot of international demand, also in terms of rooms and flat shares. Makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of expats, etc. The strategy has changed, right? We don't know when international demand is going to come back. So basically, we are focusing on national demand or local demand, right? But local demand, usually when they are looking for a room in Barcelona, they are from Barcelona, for example, right? They have the ability to go to see the flat and talk to the other people. So why they are going to do a booking online, even if there's a pandemic, right? They want to see the flat. Many people, they want to chat, right? So for example, that's an example, right? We launched the booking as an escrow payment system that worked really well for people that they didn't have this physical interaction, or they couldn't, right? Like, for example, Airbnb does. We realized that wasn't enough to value proposition, right? For the people to choose to go online rather than offline. So basically what we did is develop the deposit free. That's a clear value proposition for international people, but also for local people, right? You can go to see the flat, you can do a video call, you can do whatever you want, right? We make better the matching, but then basically in any part of the funnel, you can choose to have rent that room deposit free, basically without paying the deposit, because we will take it, right? So right now we have been focalizing on what things or what value added we can bring to the local market in the next 12 months, understanding that we won't see international demand at least in the next 12 months. And then once we get international demand, then the escrow payment system makes a lot of sense, right? So this is an example of the kind of strategy that we are working on. But we believe that even with the current scenario, we can grow in terms of demand, we can grow in terms of supply, and also we can grow in terms of revenue, because bookings and deposit free are not the only ways to monetize. We already started with premium features. So basically, listers, which means suppliers, they pay to be top on the search, recommendation system, etc., etc. Also, we are going to start working with professionals, with a subscription model, with account management, with contracts, legal. So all these things that, because we are going to have a lot of supply, we can also start monetizing with that, and also increase the amount of revenue coming from the supply side.
Also, so what's the distribution would you say that you are doing right now in terms of innovation, testing new things? Like, for instance, you have got this new service of deposit-free rentals, right? That you're testing. I don't know if you've already tested and it's launched, or still being in beta, something like that. And you know, other parts like marketing or like existing products. So what's the distribution between like testing new things and keeping the old model? Are you taking more bets right now? Are you doing more experiments just because you're forced to innovate, or not really?
Yeah, we are trying to innovate and improve in every single part of our product and services. So basically what that means is, here we were talking about deposit fee, right? But also there's many things like video calls, like trying to schedule visits with a calendar through the platform, to prepare the platform for professional usage, to have an analytics system where you can track all your blah, 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 right? And also we have been developing a lot of stuff that is going to be launched in the next 3 months related to product. Many things that probably I cannot say right now because we haven't tested yet. And also we have been also looking at different verticals. For example, not only the room rental market, but also the entire flat rental market, basically the entire rental market. And to see if it makes sense also to, once we have some things in place in terms of product, start also opening this new vertical, and Badi becoming like a full rental platform where people can also find rooms, but also flats. Just focusing on profiling, focusing on matching, etc., and all this stuff. So we have basically the entire tech team is focusing on new stuff.
Since you are, you're a VC-backed startup, right? So probably you've got commitments to your investors. You got like non-disclosure of certain things, especially roadmap, things you want to try because there's competitors in the market. So I totally understand that you're not going to share any of the innovations that you guys are launching in the new months. I dare you to do that. Like, if you can do it, it would be great. But I'm going to ask you about something else, which is, let's talk about changes in society, like in the sector of real estate, right? One of the things that we're seeing is that people are fucking off to the countryside just because cities, they don't want to leave a second lockdown in a city, man. Like 30 square meter flats in Barcelona with no heating, cramped with 6 flatmates, things like that. They're like, I'd rather go to whatever, the countryside, and have a small garden, something like that, or at least bigger houses, right? So mobility to the city, from city to rural is one. Second, it would be something more like fluidity. People, we've seen a trend in the latest years that's like people stay less and less in the same city, right? There's a tendency of switch cities much more often than previously, right? So what other trends do you think are going to happen? And are you building your product for this new society we're seeing in terms of real estate, or you're still building it for the old model?
Yeah, no, we are thinking about the current and also the new. And what you said is true. I mean, it is true that all of us, we talk about, I prefer to live outside the city and I will look for a property outside the city. The truth is that for now, we don't see a huge change on that. So there's still people in the city, and there's still a lot of people that they want to live in the city center. Even if some flats and properties get empty because some people is leaving, then of course some people will want to live in those properties anyway. But still, things that we are seeing, and it's related to what you were saying, right? Flexibility. That's going to be the most important. We have seen the last 10 years owners and also real estate funds focusing on either vacational, right, and focusing on vacational. Right now, of course, they have their problems, and also you need the permission, etc., etc., and or long term, right? But also, there's going to be a market full of millennials and also nomad people, right? Even not only nomads, right? People, they want this flexibility to, okay, I want to rent it 6 months because I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 6 months. Even I want to change from one place to the other inside a city, in a different city, in different countries, etc. So this flexibility is going to be important. So basically what we're already seeing is that a property owner, a agency, or real estate fund is going to probably be ready to rent their properties vacational, if they have permission, of course, short-term, mid-term, and also long-term. And they don't care, right? And they're going to be flexible on having this rotation, which gives basically a lot of flexibility into the market. The last 10 years, usually we've seen like property owners looking for big contracts or large contracts. On the demand side, families looking for contracts of 5 years, 7 years. I believe this is going to change as there's going to be a lot of flexibility in the market. And also there's going to be more rentals in coming months and probably in coming years. Why? Because 5 years ago, right, it was or 10 years ago, it was easy to just buy a house, right, and then pay it on a monthly basis. Today, it's very difficult to get the savings to buy a house, right? And we are seeing more people renting. First, because they want this flexibility, and second, because basically for necessity, right? They can't buy a house, right? And that's going to be also important. A high percentage of the population with the financial crisis is going to be difficult. So basically, we believe that also the rental market is going to increase versus buying and selling a house. And then also, due to the situation, we know that real estate funds and investors, they are coming to Spain already. They are going to start buying a lot, and they're going to buy for rent, right? And in coming months and years, use these properties in order to rent them. And also we see trends like build to rent. This is also growing a lot. Co-living, just buying an entire building, doing some remodeling, and just doing co-living as a centralized space, etc. And then basically digitalization of the entire market. We're going to see many things that probably could happen in the next 5-10 years happening in probably 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, they say that the strategy of digital transformation for a lot of companies and a lot of sectors has been COVID-19. Basically, they were never going to transform
100%.
themselves or digitize themselves, but it happened. They were forced 100%. To do. It seems to me like, if I understood correctly, it seems that you're not entirely of favor. You perceive that people are not able to buy homes, right? Just because it's either more convenient, or because to rent, or because they don't have the funds to buy houses because the prices have gone through the roof. However, having a rental platform like you or Airbnb, those platforms don't really help for that, right? Because you're making it more accessible for rental, and kind of like they contribute to gentrifying. Is there any sort of commitment you've got to help the city, or any sort of like social strategy to help compensate for this fact? Because for me, it seems like you're perpetuating the problem.
Yeah, well, basically, we are the intermediary, right? We have a marketplace. We want to make it easier, right? Usually, people go to classifieds, or they go to agencies. When you go to an agency, you're going to pay an agency fee. Usually, when you're going to rent a space before even starting to live in that space, you're going to pay 4 months in advance in Spain, which is crazy, right? Things that we're doing, deposit fee is one of them. And we can implement that also in our flights, right? Getting rid of the deposit is just 1 month less that you are not going to be paying, right? That's something that we are doing. Related to the platform itself, focusing on rentals, I don't believe we are, for example, helping, and this is something a topic that gets out, right? We are helping to increase rental prices. How we are going to help increase rental prices, right? I mean, I don't believe we are doing so in any single way. And also having more rentals. No, I mean, basically we know, and this is what is happening. It's due to the current situation, people need to rent and are going to be probably more willing to rent in coming months, in coming years. We are going to basically prepare the best platform for them with the best user experience. If the market in 5 years starts buying, Badi will probably shift and start focusing on offer the best user experience for buying. It's not that we want people to rent, right? It's just that we want to offer them the best user experience. So that's what we are doing basically.
And how about another one of the trends, right? I mentioned people just leaving cities or being more fluid in switching or living in other cities. Another thing that we've seen, especially in major tech hubs, right? Tech as a solution to many things, it's also a problem, right? And one problem that it brings is it's driving up the cost because we live in a bubble. Everybody in tech makes a lot of money, but we are forcing people out of their own neighborhoods to live in suburbs, right? Just because more so wealthier people come from the UK, come from the US, whatever, they want to live in Barcelona, call it digital nomads, or just because there's Skyscanner here, there's Global, whatever, they pay insane salaries, and therefore they're forcing people out of the city center, right? This is causing a major social divide in the States, like especially in San Francisco, and it's going to explode, man. It's going to explode. So I don't want this to happen in Barcelona. Is there any way, like, is it something you got in the road plan? Like, is this something you care about? Is there something you got a plan for? I mean, perhaps we're a little bit early, but I'd like to hear some positive notes on this, because otherwise it's going to explode in the face.
I mean, I have my opinion. I mean, I'm not a politician, and basically I don't have the tools also to do something about it, right? So basically, I mean, there's some things that they need to be into place, and this is not a short path or something that is going to, even some things that we can do now, they are not going to, we probably not going to see the results short, right? One, it's about education. And we already know that the companies of the future are going to be tech companies. And we know also the kind of labor that we will need, which is related to engineering, product design, different types of marketing, a lot of things, right? But related to even companies that they don't use tech, that they will, right? That doesn't mean that we won't have lawyers, etc. Of course we will, but of course education needs to shift towards something that is less analogical and more tech oriented. What we see, for example, in Barcelona, is what's happening is that we don't have enough engineers. We don't have enough engineers because basically the last years we haven't been educating a lot of engineers. And it wasn't a position that people wanted to focalize on. And what we see now is that because we have way less engineers, the salaries are increasing, right? And not only engineers, but also product managers in tech companies, etc. So basically, what we need is more engineers and more. And that with this, I'm not saying that we should decrease the salaries of those people, right? What I'm just saying is that it should be more equal through the overall percentage of the population that lives in Barcelona, Madrid, or in any other given city. I don't know if I have a clear answer for that, being honest.
No, I mean, of course, it's a very complex, it's a very complex situation. That's not going to happen. But at least, since, I mean, you guys are huge proponents of Barcelona, and you're one of our biggest players right now. You're doing a kick-ass job at promoting Barcelona, right? And it helps. I know a ton of people who've come to Barcelona, they found a flat thanks to Badi. So maybe thanks to that, this talent is retained here. So, I mean, shout out to you guys, because you're doing a great job in especially being welcoming to the international people, right? As an ex-expat myself, I mean, I used to live in Germany, and it's hard to be an expat, man. And Barcelona, and especially the Catalans, we're not especially welcoming, right?
No.
Especially Barcelona, because it's like, well, we're a little bit fed up with tourists and so on and so forth, right? We're not the most welcoming people. So by providing a platform to sort of help these people to integrate in the city, I think that's great. It's a great job that counterbalances this service that other major forces in the ecosystem are doing, right? So anyways, just wanted to express my gratitude in that. Another topic I wanted to talk about, let's get less philosophical, maybe more emotional, right? For those who were in our event July last year, when I interviewed you, we had a totally unexpected part where we opened up. Like, I don't know why you brought up, like, man, there were a couple of days in which I felt I was not the right CEO of the company. And we talked for like 20 minutes about imposter syndrome, about communicating to the team, about opening, showing fragility, things like that, which I think it was a little bit like a premonition of what was to come, because most people have done it now during the pandemic. How are you feeling now? Are you feeling like you're still the right CEO for the company? And what has changed in that regard? Like, have you gained like more confidence or something? Also, I was also in the same phase. That's why we commented. And I remember we're like relating. It's like, dude, I'm totally thinking the same. I'm also might not be the right CEO for the company at this moment. And we talk like that. So how are you feeling now about that?
Yeah. So now, I mean, now what I can say is that I have a little bit more experience. Also, I mean, more than 5 years already with a company of more than 100 people. So basically, I know I gain more experience and I can feel it, and I know it and I feel it every single day. That still doesn't mean that I'm the right CEO. And this is, I mean, it's not about being CEO or working on a startup, right? I can be product manager. I can be, I don't know, a lawyer, whatever, right? And I believe everyone sometimes, and not only once at the beginning, but sometimes they will have the feeling that they are not as good as they should be, or they are not doing the things as good as they should be, or they are not the right person for the job, right? And always we believe that there's always a better person to be doing the job, right? That's normal, right? I still, of course, as I believe anyone, sometimes think, look, there's people who were more, that has a lot, like way more seniority than me, right, for this job. But now I feel and I see that also because I've worked more with senior talent, right? After 5 years with more money, we had we were lucky to hire senior talent. And you can see that seniority is needed in a company, and also it helps you grow a lot and to be more calm, right, during crisis and these situations. But then eventually you have founded the company and you have been in the company 5 years. And there's many things that you have that seniority it's not going to bring, right? And it's related to also this. And yeah, so basically, I mean, I just answer your question. I feel sometimes every week or every month still that, I mean, I believe today I didn't do a great job as CEO or communicating something or doing whatever, right? And now, basically, I try to improve every day, and I don't stop that much thinking if I'm not the good CEO or not. It's what it is, and I try to do my best. And that's how
I think you already accepted that you are. No, actually, that's a good assist, because my next question was going to be related to the fact that you brought in senior VPs, especially, right? Senior management, right? Last year when we talked, you were about like 40 or 50 maybe. Now your company is 100 plus, which is 10 times bigger than mine. But still, we have the same challenge, which is it's our first crisis, right? It's the first time we as business owners go head on against a crisis. And I remember the first days I was like, what the fuck, this is like, even though we were not really affected, but our clients were, and we didn't know what to expect. You don't know how to plan. You cannot plan, right? So the first thing I did, and I want to hear your thoughts on that, is I remember I called a few folks in the industry, people I interviewed at Startup Grind, like David Gonzalez from Grupo Nuntis. I talked to David Tomas from CyberClick, to Mara Larcon, for instance, or to Anna Janet from Savile Seguidor Newman. So like, hey, how do you go through this? Like, I literally have got no clue. Not that I had a clue about pre-pandemic, right? But now I have less of a clue, right? What did you do? Like, did you seek counsel in these senior managers that you brought, or was it external people? Was it mentors? Was it the board? Where do you seek counsel?
Yeah. So first, I mean, I believe no one has gone through a global pandemic, right? So this type of crisis, they went through financial crisis, different crises.
They would be really old. They would be 100 years old.
Yes, correct. So no one in our companies has lived through a crisis like this one.
Yeah.
I mean, every company, I believe it is different, and also it is different the number of people, also the type of profiles that they have, the type of seniority, and also the type of business. I always say that there's three main things that I've learned that work for every single case. The first thing it's serenity, or being calm, right? That is super important, because when a crisis comes and hits hard, you feel that you need to solve things quickly, and because of this feeling of that you're losing a lot of things, right? That your company can be dead, or it can be hit hard in coming months. You maybe communicate incorrectly to your team, take the wrong decisions, etc. So being calm, I think it is key. Not everybody can be calm during a crisis. Not everyone, and that's important when you are a leader. Doesn't matter if you are a CEO or not, right? If you are going to lead a team and encourage them to just plan towards that crisis. Then the second thing, it's transparency.
Correct.
I mean, we have been all the way talking with the team and say, look, we need to do this because of this. Just ask whatever questions you have. Get angry if you want, but then let's move on, right? And we have been super transparent during the whole process. And basically that's it. When you are transparent and you are natural, basically people, they understand. And even if they don't understand, they just live with it, right? And I think that's key. And the third one is determination. You can be calm, you can be transparent, but if you don't have a very simple and clever plan, that it may not work, but basically you need to plan ahead and having like 1, 2, 3 different scenarios, then your team and your company is not going to trust you, basically, right? It's like, okay, let's keep calm, right? Let's be transparent. We don't have a plan, or we don't know what to do during this circumstance, right? So determination, I think, is key. And once you're calm, it allows you to just think and plan correctly. So with the board, I mean, investors during this situation, some of them, and they are like normal people like us. So some of the investors, they were like super calm. Some others, they were like crazy. super senior investors.
I know who was calm and I know who was crazy in your case, but yeah, not gonna share.
So in some cases, some investors, they were like, "Why we need to do this? And I was the one with 30 years old, right, saying, "Look, keep calm, right? We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Let's wait for this. Let's do this." And it's just not everybody has the right skills or mindset in order to go through a crisis and be calm, in order to just communicate, articulate to the team, to investors, that basically you have a plan, and whatever, if it's going to work or not, then it depends, but at least you know what you're doing, and you can drive through this crisis. So I think that's
transparency is really important. And I was going to ask, so do you regularly share your financials, your P&L with the team, and or your projections? What sort of information do you share with the team in order to kind of like let them understand what's going on, or you don't share anything?
So I mean, basically we get some targets in place, of course, usually revenue targets. Then of course on a weekly basis, all the companies see if we are following the targets or not. Then what I usually share is the runway that we have, or my plan also to raise more money, or how we are going to have more runway or get to profitability, etc. And we are following this on a weekly, monthly basis. We do company meetings every Tuesday for 1 hour. I talk about the strategy, I talk about company. This is pretty new, because at the beginning it was only once per month, and right now, which is weekly, it's just working pretty well. And then we share, and then I share the P&L, for example, with all the senior managers, right? And if I can, with all the managers, not with everyone in the company. I mean, I don't think you need to show all the expenses, OPEX, etc., at that level to everyone in the company. But at least being honest, look, we have 18 months of runway, and then after 5 months, we have 13 months of runway, and we need to do this, and also to get them internalize that they are working in a startup, and working in a startup means having less time, some that you can die, you can still die, right, as a company, not like other big corporations. And yeah,
Every big corporation can die. Like, remember the last financial crisis? Like, you thought those big elephants, those motherfuckers were not going to die, and look at what happened. No, but what you're saying is true. I like your side in terms of transparency. I'm a huge advocate for radical transparency. But what we found in our company, at least in MarsBased, is that when you share too much, people don't give a shit, especially if they're not into financials. Like, in our case, it's developers. Like, they don't care about financials. Most of them, they're like, nice to have it, but I'm not going to read it. So it sort of creates kind of like not a disassociation, but they don't feel attached to that kind of information. They don't want to have it. For them, it's excessive information, which might help them to burn out or have other things in the mind that they don't want to see, right? So for me, it's much more like information is available upon demand, right? Upon the request. Like, you want to know this, just ask, or it's there. But like, we're not going to force you with that. In that regard, and how about like the communications? Because you're young, and one of the things that I find, like, I found, especially dealing with many clients, being in services for well over 10 years now, is that one of the things that I really don't like about young leaders, and I might be young myself, I don't know, we're just 3 years apart, but is that most of them, they compensate their lack of seniority with being bossy. They think like being bossy and rude and arrogant and like generally treating people badly, it will earn them respect. I don't think you belong to that school. I mean, I don't know, but you seem to be the kind of person that you would share more vulnerability or fragility, something like that. How do you communicate to the team? What's your style, and what's your advice for people?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an example, right? We were every company has chiefs or VPs or senior leadership or senior management, whatever, right? We were start calling this group in Badi leadership.
Great.
And I deleted that name. We are not being called it because basically,
which is what? Sorry, it's just like C-levels and VPs, or just
C-levels and VP. C-levels.
Okay, great.
The word being a leader is not something that you can call yourself. It is something that you become, right? And yes. So basically, you can call yourself a leader and you can be leadership, but that you need to really become a leader and earn it, right? As you said. And be a leader is not about shouting and be bossy, etc., etc. It's about people that they are attracted by you, they are motivated by you, and they want to work alongside you towards a vision, right, and a mission. And that's sometimes it's difficult because, for example, during this situation, right, things are not going as expected, right, and people can lose some motivation, but they are not going to work harder to get to where we want to be because I'm going to be bossy or I'm going to tell them to do it, right? They need to be motivated. The only way to motivate people is to really inspire them, right? And that's not easy to do. I mean, I'm learning a lot, and that's not easy to do. And I don't believe I'm the best leader that inspires and motivates. This is something that I'm learning, but still, I always thought that I want to be surrounded by a team of people that it's I can work hand by hand, and when you arrive to a meeting, they are as motivated as I am, right? And so I don't know if I have some more examples, but yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that we have seen, right? Even though we're a 100% remote company, but our people were affected by the pandemic just because there's a lot of, there's the Zoom fatigue. There's, you got your children at home, your spouse has been laid off from her job, whatever, or like you cannot see your grandparents because they're risk and whatever. So we've all been affected, right? And I think that one of the right moves we did in our company was to share that we all have got problems. We will all fuck up more than usual during the pandemic. We all be stressed. We might burn out. We need to talk to people. Let's just be, have more empathy with one another, right? And I opened up like precisely, I don't know if I was inspired by your message last year or something, but I said, I had this existential crisis one day, and I share on Basecamp, our project management tool, and so like, dude, I'm sorry, I think I fail you as a CEO. I haven't been around much. Like, I usually just sell, the sales, and then I send the projects to the team. Then there's, entire team does that. But I normally am not very engaged with the technical team in the company, right? And I said, maybe we need another kind of CEO in the company, and that inspired in turn that everybody share more than feelings. And right now we are extra. If we were open before, now we're extra open. And I think that by doing this movement, maybe because of the kind of company we are, people start engaging more with me or with one another, right? I think it was a great move, but that was caused by the pandemic. I don't know if I would have had done that otherwise. So is there something you've done? Like, have you changed your communication style? How are you expressing feelings when you're passing messages on to the team?
First of all, I believe there's different kinds of CEOs. Some CEOs that the only thing they need to do because they have a team prepared, to do that. They are CEOs, that they focalize only on raising funds and talking to investors. They are more operational CEOs, and there are CEOs that they do both things. I believe the best thing is to do both things. I've been a long time a CEO of raising money, and one of the things I did also is going to the team and I said, look, that's my fault. Basically, what happens then is that you have less time to have these communications, not only with the company itself. Right now, we have a company meeting where I talk with the meeting every single Tuesday, and we have a Q&A through Slido, anonymous or not, where they can ask whatever question, and it's pretty natural, right? That's one thing that we did, but then individually, right? And I've changed the way I was approaching to the team. So, for example, imagine that you are or VP engineer in Badi, right? So what I was doing is I had these one-on-ones, right, or catch-ups. So basically, my question was, how is your team? Just give me highlights and lowlights, right, and see if I can help you. That was my approach. The approach now is completely different. The first question I ask is, how are you?
Great. Focusing on emotions or feelings.
Yes. So basically, there's a difference between a operational catch-up and a one-on-one. For me, a one-on-one, it's about how are you, right? Let's talk about how are you, 15 minutes for 30 minutes. And then they are operational catch-ups. How is the team, right? Highlights, lowlights, how can I help? Boom, 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 right? And I see a huge difference because people, when you do what, at least it happened to me. For one-on-ones, they expect they had a list of things, right? I need to, no, just leave the list. And how are you? And we're like, okay. So good. What else? No, I've been doing that. I don't like this.
Yeah.
So it helps a lot.
Yeah, like that's one of the things. Like when you ask people, how are you doing? They're going to be like, yeah, fine. But how are you doing? Like if you ask it a second time, they're going to give you the full answer, right?
Yeah, I just get how are you doing? Fine.
Really?
Just keep going. No, and maybe they are fine, right? But just start the conversation, and
there's always something. Yeah, it's I always try to force it a little bit because it's very easy. It's just kind of like we're so used in society to say like, yeah, I'm fine, and that's it, continue, because no one gives a shit about each other, right? But if you really care, if you're like, no, really, tell me how you're feeling. Like what are we doing wrong? What can we improve? What are you frustrated about? We got a couple of questions from the audience, and I'd like to throw them in before we wrap this up. One of them is really interesting from Nick. In the private equity market, there's been a lot of activity in the last few months, especially by this company, a Swedish company called Equity, right? They bought Idealista. How do you envision the market to be like? Would there be a consolidation in the market where there's a smaller number of really big players, and that opens more competition in super niche markets for smaller players? What's your vision? And let's say for the 5-10 years.
Yeah, I see consolidation. For the last 10 years, what we have seen, it's a big player or 2-3 players in every single country, locals, classifieds, focalizing on real estate. In Spain, we have Idealista, Fotocasa, Vitaclia. For example, in Berlin, you have big suit. There's in every single country, there's the big classifieds, or maybe 1, 2, 3, right? Some of them, they are super horizontal. Some of them they focalize on real estate. What I see, it's two things. Consolidation, meaning we already have groups like Shipstead, now EQT, and there's going to be more and more that they start buying a bunch of classifieds just to create this kind of group and consolidation. And I believe this is eventually what we will see. Then what we have is also what we call prop tech startups, right?
Yeah.
Startups that they focalize on different niche and or in different parts of the funnel, right? Usually classifieds, they focalize on marketing, right? You post and then there's a match and that's it, right? Everything then happens offline. What all classifieds they want is to enter into services and transactions. This is something that is really difficult for them because they don't have profiling, right? For example, they don't have bank accounts. They don't have, and people when they enter classified site, they expect just to connect and make a phone call and that's it, right? So basically, also some companies that they only focus on deposits, only focus on guarantees, only focus on property management, only focus on different. So I believe there's going to be consolidation of all those companies and also the big market, some classifieds buying another small companies focalizing on services and transactions. And then of course funds like EQT just buying. In terms of when I saw the news, I mean, I was super happy because basically it means like they are also in Italy and Portugal, but mainly in Spain, right? The Spanish classifieds being sold by 1.3 billion is just great news. Because when you talk with investors, they say, if you are only going to focalize in Spain,
provided they pay the taxes, which is, wishful thinking, not saying anything here. But you're going to be one of these players, undoubtedly. Like I see that we got great faith in you guys. Barcelona deserves more and bigger companies, and you guys are opening the path for a lot of companies. But what is the company that will disrupt Badi in 5-10 years?
It's not. I don't believe it's has more yet.
It's not okay. But you don't see, is there like something you will not focus on? Like for instance, booking.com, they say like, we're never going to go into B2B because we only have got like 9% of the B2C market. We still have 91%, right? And that's how Travel Perk was born. Is this something you're not pursuing at this time that you'll say like, it's a huge opportunity for somebody else. It's a candy. It's a low hanging fruit, but we're not going to go there because we're so focused on our thing. Yeah.
So do you mean if one of the big companies is going to also enter this vertical?
I'm thinking more small company, like a new Badi will just try to, disrupt you. Like one opportunity is so in the market, it was not there. So something you're living out on purpose right now that somebody else might just concentrate on that and create a new startup.
Yeah, a lot of things. Because basically we are talking about a market that has been focalizing on the first step of the process. When you want to rent or when you want to buy, basically you need the supply and you need the demand, and then you have this match, right? After the match, what we call post-match, right? You have transactions, you have services, you have legal stuff, you have monthly recurrent payments, you have cleaning services, it's a huge list of things, right? So we can't do everything. And no one can do everything at the same time. And if you try to do everything at the same time, probably you are not going to go fast enough, and maybe you will fail because it's a lot of segmented focus, right? So I believe there's already many companies and tech startups focalizing on different parts of the funnel. In our case, we started in the first step, so on the commercialization. So now we can start testing different things on transactions, on deposit free, on services. We have Badi Homes, which focalizes on property management to understand what things we can automatize, right? So yes, for sure. I mean, I believe there's going to be great companies that only focus on one specific part of the funnel in the rental process or buying and selling process.
Last question, and we wrap this up, and thank you very much for your time because you've been extremely generous, is that you will like to be remembered as what? Like you yourself or the company? What do you want Badi, for instance, to be remembered for in eternity?
Being honest, I don't think about it.
You don't think long term? Like you don't have, what's your mission? Like you got a mission as a company.
of course, we have a vision and we have a mission, but myself, right? I don't think about how people is going to perceive or what. So I don't envision myself in the next 10 years because I don't know. So basically, I just focalize on learning and what things I can do. Now, of course, the company has a vision, right? Our vision is to digitalize the entire rental market and become the #1 platform in terms of rental in Europe, at least in the next 5 years, right? So that's the vision. How we will do that? Then we have the strategy and the plan specifics, right? But yeah, I mean, we want to be, so basically there's Airbnb, right? So I could say that we want to become the Airbnb for mid to long-term rentals. Not that means that we're going to copy reviews and transactions. We may have reviews and transactions, but we will try to digitalize the whole process and not to become the local classified site for Spanish classified site, but way more open, and try to do what right now EQT and other Shift is trying to do, because we haven't seen yet a Airbnb for mid to long-term rentals. There's 1 or 2 per country, right? So basically what they are doing is just buying one. And what we will try to do is to become the one that, could we say that it's in Europe and then potentially US, of course.
Great. Carlos, just to wrap this up, I'm rolling the red carpet for you. You got this camera. 1 minute.
Okay.
What's going on in your life? What do you want to share? How can we help you? Like, what do you need to share with the world?
Okay. That's a question that I didn't expect it. You're using my tactic. So what's going on? And well, I believe right now also we have been during a challenging time in terms of team structure, etc. As always, I believe the first time I also mentioned the same thing. If anyone wants to approach me anytime, just please feel free to do it and ask whatever question. And also, I mean, knowing different people, it's going to help me grow and also our company. But also we have, of course, open positions. So anyone interested, we have open positions in product, also in product design, also in engineering. So if you are an engineer or a product designer or a product manager or product owner, just feel free also to look at the open positions and let's talk.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you very much for your honesty. I can totally tell you that he's one of the most approachable people in the startup scene. So feel free to contact him on Twitter or email or LinkedIn. He's going to reply right away. Thank you, everybody. One of the best feedbacks you've received on YouTube, I was just reading, I got my phone here and I was reading the comments. I was like that they love the honesty and no bullshit approach. So thank you very much, Carlos. We're in depth with you, and thank you to everybody in the audience. Lovely evening to everybody. See you in November with Luis Martin Caviedes. All right, we're off. Bye.